Hello teachers and friends, we are a group of babysitters, and in this video, we are going to skim through the concepts in Chapter 5 and Chapter 6. Well, my name is Crystal, and there are 5 other members in my team: Naiva, Khuê, Ngọc, Toàn, and Long. Taking a closer look, we're going to address 3 topics about consumer markets and 5 topics about business market in today's video. Well, first of all, let's talk about consumers markets, where consumers bought and use products. This market is dependent upon consumers' behavior, and therefore, it is necessary that marketers know about consumers' behavior. Marketers can learn about consumers' behavior with questions like what they buy, where they buy, and how much they buy easily. However, the key questions are why would people do that, and how would customers respond to the various marketing efforts that a company may use. And unfortunately, since it is impossible to know what is going on inside people's heads, these 2 questions are really hard to answer. There are many things that would affect consumers' behavior. There are 4 main categories: cultural, social, personal, psychological. Well, cultural influences might include culture, subculture, and social class. Social influences are groups of and social networks, families, or roles and status. There are several personal aspects such as age, personalities, occupation, lifestyle, economic situation that would have an impact on the consumer's behavior. And finally, psychological effects such as motivations, perceptions, learning, beliefs, and attitudes may also have direct impact on consumers' behavior. Now that we've known more about things that may affect behavior and the purpose of learning about customer behavior, my teammate would continue with how consumers' behavior is relating to buying decisions.
Hello teacher, today I'd like to talk about types of buying decisions behaviors. So the first one you can see that complex buying behaviors. Complex buying behavior occurs when a person buys an expensive and costly products. In our daily lives, we don't normally buy costly products frequently. When it comes to it, we show complex interest in the purchase decisions by thoroughly investigating and researching the products. Firstly, you can see that this means reducing buying behaviors. This means reducing buying behavior happens when the consumer shows a high level of involvement because the product is very pricey and expensive. We don't usually buy expensive things in our daily routine lives. When it comes to it, the consumer would buy the product that is easily and readily available. So the next one is the habitual buying behaviors. Habitual buying behavior when the customer shows less interest in the buying decisions. He is more interested and focused on the brand's differences. It usually happens when a customer buys daily routine items frequently and he doesn't pay much attention to it. He means focus on the prime products from his favorite brand and retail stores where when it usually goes stopping. And finally, you can say that the variety seeking buying behaviors is the interest of consumers is very low in the variety seeking buying behaviors. Consumers do not pay a lot of attention to the brand differences, and they aren't loyal to any of the brands. They often switch to another brands only because of a problem or want to try something different. So this is that's on of the task of buying decision behavior. The next one I want to show you about the buyer decision process. This the adoption process is the mental process an individual go through from first learning about an innovation to the final regular use. So I have a five steps of the customer adoption process. The first step is the product awareness. The second step is the product interest. Next one is evaluation, continuing the trial, and the last of steps is the production adoption. So that's all of the steps in the adoption process. So the next one I want to tell you about individuals differences in innovativeness. So you can see that I show you about the 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 last class of the prior decision process for new products, individual differences in innovativeness. So you can see that um, so you can see that innovators are the venturesome. They are willing to try new products at some risk. Early adopters are their opinions leaders in their communities and new products early but carefully. Early majority are the daily practice. Although they are rarely leaders, they adopt new products before the average version. Late majority are the skepticals. They adopt an innovations only after a majority of people have tried it. And the last one is the laggers are the traditional powers. They are suspicious only when it starts become something a tradition itself. Yes, this is on the meanings of the innovators, early adopters, early mentors, and late mentors, and large adopters. That's all of the individual difference in innovativeness. So the continuing, I want to show you and talk talk to you about influence of the product characteristics on rate of adoption. So you can see that in the table, the first one is relative advantage. Is the degree to which the innovations appear superior to existing products. The second is the compatibilities. The innovations match the values and experience of the individuals. And the next one is complexities, is the degree to which the innovation is relatively difficult to understand or use. The next one is the divisibility, the degree to which the innovations can be tried on a limited basis. And the last one is the communicabilities, degree to which the beneficial results of the use are observable or describable to other. So that's all of the influence of the product characteristics on rates of adoption. Now, my members of my teammates will show you about the business markets and business buyer behavior right now.
In this chapter, we'll talk about business market and business buyer behavior. Start with taking Samsung as an example. To make this phone, Samsung needs to buy from suppliers hardware, software, and machineries in order to make it and contain in box to sell it to the customer. This behavior it refers to the behavior of organization that buy goods and services in order to produce other goods and service. In this case, the phone are sold, rented, and supplies to others, that is the customer. The business market and the consumer markets are quite the same, but there are three main differences. The first one is the market structure and demand. The business market contain normally with less but larger buyers. It's like company that when they buy, they will buy in a large quantity, not just like small like individuals. Business demand ultimately derived from the demand for customer goods, and business market demand is more inelastic and is less affected by short-term price changes, while also fluctuates more quickly. The second difference is the nature of buying units. Business buyers' decisions are often more complex and formalized because they buy an enormous amount per purchase. So it involves many thinking process and decision when making a purchase. The last one is the decision process. Now, there are many things that are able to affect consumer behavior. Let's take a look. First of all, let's talk about consumer markets, where consumer bought and used products. This market is dependent upon customer behavior. Therefore, it is necessary that marketers know how about the customer behavior. There are three types of buying situation. The first one is straight buyer. It's customer who routinely reorder something without any modifications. The next one is modified buyers. It refers to customer that like to modify the product's specifications, prices, and term or suppliers. The next one is new task. It's for the customer who purchased the products or service for the first time. The sale often goes to the firm that engages business customer deeply and provides the most complete system for meeting a customer needs and solving its problem. The system selling it's for customer who like to buy a package solution rather than each uh, segmentation, those avoiding all separate decision involved in a complex buying situation. There are multiple participants in the business buying process. The buying center are all the individuals and units that play a role in the purchase decision-making process. The buying center is a set of buying roles assumed by different people. We have the first one is users. Users are members of the buying organization who will actually use the products or service. Buyers are the people in an organization buying center who make an actual purchase. Influencer are people in an organization buying center who affect on the buying decision. They often help define specific specifications and also provide information for evaluating alternatives. Deciders are people who have formal or informal power to select and approve the final suppliers. And the last one is gatekeepers, or people in an organization buyer center who control the flow of information to others. Moving on to the major influences on business buyers. There are a lot of things that can influence the business buyer, such as environmental factors. They can be include the economic environment, the supply of key materials and culture and custom. Organizational factors such as objective, system, and policies can also have an influence. Also, in interpersonal factors such as authority status and persuasiveness can exercise their influence. Lastly, individual factors such as age, income, education, and risk attitude can play a role in decision of business buyer.
Next, we will focus on how a business makes a decision as a buyer. This is what we call the business buyer decision process. So there are 8 stages in this process. First is problem recognition, general need description after, product specification, supplier search, proposal solicitation, supplier selection, order routine specification, and finally performance review. So let's take a look at each and every one of these steps. So first we have problem recognition, which is when someone in the company recognizes a problem or a need that can be met by acquiring a good or a service. So there are 2 aspects to consider in this. First is internal, then we have external aspect. Internally, a company might seek for new equipment or new materials for the launching of a new product, or they might even seek for a new supplier because the current one is not satisfying enough. Externally, a company might look at a better product or service and notice what is lacking in their own product, like, for example, the price. Secondly, we have general need description, which is essentially describing the characteristics and quantity of the needed item. This relies on factors like reliability, durability, price, and other attributes desired in the item. Then we have product specification, which is when the buying organization decides on and specifies the best technical product characteristics for a needed item. So this is when the value analysis engineering team is involved because it is a question of cost reduction. So how can a company make less expensive designs? How can they make less expensive standardizing or even less expensive production? We also have supplier search, which is when buyers try to find the best vendors. This can be done within trade directories or when a company does online researches or even calls other companies for recommendations. We have to know, though, that the more complex and costly the desired item is, the more difficult it is to find the right supplier. So once a company has searched for the best vendors, they will solicitate numerous suppliers to submit their proposals. This is what we call proposal solicitation. The proposals can be in the form of a website, a promotional material, a presentation, or even have a salesperson present the proposal. After gathering multiple proposals, we have supplier selection, which is when the buyer reviews proposals and selects a supplier or suppliers. This selection process relies on criteria such as service, reputation, on-time delivery, ethical corporate behavior, honest communication, as well as competitive prices. Once we have selected the suppliers, there is an order routine specification, which is when a company finalizes the order with the chosen supplier, as well as discussing details concerning technical specifications, quantity needed, expected time of delivery, or return policies and even warranties. Usually, companies go for a blanket contract because it creates a long-term relationship between the supplier and the buyer, because the supplier promises to resupply the buyer as needed at agreed prices for a specific period of time. Then finally, we have performance review, which is when the buyer assesses supplier performance and decides to continue, modify, or drop the arrangement according to how the satisfaction level were met. The purpose of this step is checking whether or not a supplier is meeting the expectations of the buyer, and this can essentially be done with user reviews. So this is all for the business buyer decision process. There are 8 stages that we have to remember. However, we must know that this process is not absolute and it does not apply to every company because some companies skip, compress, add, or even modify, or even repeat some of these steps. Each organization buys in its own way, and each buying situation has its own unique requirements. So the business buyer decision process can differ from one organization to another.
In this section, I'll talk about engaging business with digital and social marketing. So, first of all, I'm gonna talk about e-procurement, which is online purchasing. This has grown rapidly in the recent years, and it provides great benefit for business buyer as well as supplier. And supplier company marketer can connect with customer conveniently to share marketing information, to sell products and service, and maintain customer relationship. B2B e-procurement cut down costs, more efficient purchases for both customer and supplier, and eliminates paperwork as well as help organize order. Moving on to B2B digital and social media marketing. Advertise through social media is a great way to engage business customer and manage customer relationship anywhere, anytime. Services a top freight logistic company and truckload
freight broker excel at social media because their content is fresh, post daily, and high quality. Simply, they create engaging, informative content and are constantly active across all major social media. So this helped them to conveniently support customer, advertise the brand more, as well as receiving feedback from customer and managing customer relationship more efficiently. So sources notice the importance of social media marketing, so they invest in this a lot. Basically, they keep consistent daily posting content by having content that reliable and fresh, because the more active business are, the greater their outreach to potential new customer. And they want to engaging reader because they want reader to connect and engage with their social media posts. Every time customer leave comment or share or like a post, their social media presence and their digital footprint grow. So they also want to post quality content because posting anything just for the sake of posting is not good social media strategy. Content that is boring and basic will not help their business to grow. They need to have the good content to capture interest of reader and engage them to read, share, follow the business. And this is what is going to build their following and their brand and generate new customers. So the most successful company today work daily to improve their social media content and reap the benefit of consistent quality content marketing.
Moving on, the last chapter, institutional and government markets. So there are two types of market. The smaller one is institutional market. A school or hospital, for example, is purchase or rent specific goods or services for the people in their care. For example, the doctors buy drugs and medicine to provide to the patient, and this require low purchase and captive patrons. The bigger one is government markets. It's container ministry, Federal Reserve, and etc. And they purchase or rent massive goods and services for government functions and requirements. So basically, by practicing or opening which ones has a higher price and buy it or negotiate contracts to reduce the cost. This require more firm in signatures. In this, the business between the nations with the nation or the nation with the company, and this had a slow response and deliberately. And that's for group presentation. Thank you for listening.